everybody, my name is Helen, and today we are going to do my November wrap-up. In the month of November, I read 4 books, I watched 4 movies, I finished 1 game, and I watched 1 series on TV. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. The first book that I read in November was Moon of the Crusted Snow, and this is by Wabashig Rice. This is a post-apocalyptic story. This group of Native Americans living on a reserve, and there is a really heavy snowstorm, and it knocks out all of the power and closes down all the roads to bring them their supplies. And it just follows them during this event. It is weirdly chilling. It is kind of horrifying, a little bit predictable. It was like under halfway through this book that I realized what was going to be kind of happening later on, which was a little bit disappointing. It is only like 200 and some odd pages. It's super short, and it's incredibly well written. Wabashig Rice is a fantastic author. I do hope to pick up more of his work in the future because of how gripping his writing is. I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The first movie that I watched this month, I'm so happy to be able to talk about because it's been so long since I've been able to watch it, and that is Tangled. For those of you who don't know, Tangled is my favorite movie, my favorite Disney movie. It's my happy-making movie, and I used to watch it every single night before I went to bed. And then it was taken off of Netflix, and I don't own a physical copy. But Disney Plus came out, and I watched it. And it's so good. It's still one of my favorite movies of all time. Seeing the opening sequence just immediately, like, I can't help but have this big old grin on my face. I love Rapunzel, I love Flynn, I love Mother Gothel as a villain. It is such a good movie. If you haven't watched it, please do. I feel like it's still so underrated. Yeah, 5 out of 5, like A+, 10 out of 10. The series that I watched this month was The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, Season 1, Part 1, whatever you want to call it. I have a friend who is super into horror and in particular really enjoys this TV show, and I started watching it around Halloween and I finished it at the beginning of the month. I also got a decent way into part 2, but I haven't finished it yet, so I'm not going to talk about it in here. It's such a fun show, and I understand the problems that people have with it. It is a little social justice warrior-y, but I thought it was a lot of fun. I think that the actors in this show are incredibly talented. I like that it doesn't shy away from the more horror elements. It's probably the scariest thing I watched around the Halloween season. Yeah, I would give it like 4 out of 5 stars for part 1. And the game that I played in November was The Last of Us. And I'm sure that people know what this game is because it's one of the most well-received and well-known games of like the last decade. Part 2 is supposed to be coming out soon. I think it got pushed back. It was supposed to release in February, and I think now it's releasing in July or something. I don't even care. I'm just excited that it's coming out. I've played The Last of Us a little bit here and there, but I had never beat it, and I finally beat it, and it's such a good story. I love it so much. Ellie and Joel are perfection. If you haven't picked up this game, I highly recommend that you do so. If you have a PlayStation, it is available in the PlayStation Now subscription, so you can play it without actually having to buy the game itself. It's so worth it. Play it before part 2 comes out. For those of you who don't know what this is about, I guess I should talk about that. This follows a man named Joel and a girl named Ellie, and they live in a world where there is this sort of, it's like a zombie apocalypse, but it's not a zombie apocalypse. There's like this fungus that will take over people's brains and make them go kind of crazy and like zombies, and Ellie is immune, and so they have to get her somewhere to create a vaccine, and it's their story, and it's so good. The end took such a twist, and I loved it. I can't wait to see the fallout for it in part 2. Oh, it's gonna be so good. 5 out of 5 stars. It's such a good game. It plays incredibly well. The graphics are beautiful. Like, go and give this game some love. The second book that I read in November was The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. This is an adult thriller following a young woman named Rowan, and she takes a job in the Scottish Highlands, kind of in the middle of nowhere, being a nanny for these, really 4 girls, but one of them doesn't come in until later, in a smart house. And some weird things keep happening, and the girls are little monsters. Oh my god. Everyone talks about how terrible the children are, and now I get it. They're awful. If I had been in Rowan's position, they would have died. But speaking of which, the story is told in the format of Rowan sending letters to a lawyer because she has been arrested for the murder of one of the children, but she didn't do it. And so you read the whole book knowing that a child is going to die, and it's everything leading up to that. And you slowly figure out what all the weird shit is, find out what actually happened right at the end. It's a very good book. There are 2, I would say, major plot twists in it. The first one really got me. I almost threw my book across the room because I was shook. The second one didn't get me as much, but it was still a very good plot twist. Everything about this book was done incredibly well. I would highly recommend it if you are into adult thrillers, or if you are not really and you want to branch into them, because I feel like this was very easy to read as someone who mainly reads YA. Yeah, it was great. I read the whole thing in I don't know, it was 3 days or something once I got really into it. Yeah, it was great. 4 out of 5 stars. Really enjoyed it. The second movie that I watched was Pirates of the Caribbean: Curse of the Black Pearl, which, if you don't know, is the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie. It is the best Pirates of the Caribbean movie. It's so good. I threw this on one night because I haven't watched it in a long time, and it was a big inspiration for one of the books that I'm currently working on. And I just love it so much. This is such peak chaos of everybody. Oh god, they're all so chaotic, and it's wonderful. Yeah, I don't know how to really explain Pirates of the Caribbean. We follow Will and Elizabeth, Elizabeth is the daughter of a governor, and she's really well off, and Will is an orphan, he's a blacksmith. They are kind of into each other, but not really allowed to do anything about it. And then Elizabeth gets kidnapped by pirates, and Will hires, more or less, Captain Jack Sparrow, who is a pirate who's been thrown in jail, to help him go and save Elizabeth. And it's their crazy adventures. There's a little bit of magic thrown in. It's so much fun. 5 out of 5 stars for this one as well. It is such a good movie. The third book that I read but didn't read was Dig by A.S. King. I really enjoy A.S. King books. I've read 2 in the past. I read Please Ignore Vera Dietz, which I gave 5 stars, and I read The Dust of 100 Dogs, which was her very first book, and I gave that 3.5 stars. So I was very excited to pick up Dig, and I was really, really enjoying it. And then I had to DNF it on page 69 because it went a little too in detail about someone having food poisoning, and it was triggering an anxiety attack. I have pretty severe emetophobia, and I just couldn't do it. So even though I was enjoying the book so much, I had to put it down. I'm not gonna ever pick it back up, which is really unfortunate. But yeah, so Dig by A.S. King. The third movie that I watched this month was The Incredibles, and I hadn't watched this since I was 8 or 9 years old. I remember there was this big movie night at my elementary school, and we watched this movie in the gym with just mats everywhere and blankets, and it was a lot of fun, but I didn't remember anything. So watching the movie again was so fun because I didn't remember anything. It was like watching it for the first time. It's such a good kids movie, and it's such a good superhero movie. This movie follows a family of superheroes, but superheroes have been made illegal, so they've gone into hiding. But the husband, who used to be this man named Mr. Incredible, gets a job offer, basically, to work as a superhero again, and he takes it. And it's just all of the craziness that follows from that. Great movie, like really great movie. I would give this like 4.5 out of 5 stars. Really enjoyed it. I can't wait to watch it again. And the fourth and final book that I read in November was Tell Me How You Really Feel by Amina May Safi. This is a sapphic romance following a girl named Sana and a girl named Rachel, and they have a very grumpy, soft dynamic, and it follows their hate-to-love relationship as due to certain circumstances, Sana is forced to take the lead role in a film for Rachel, which she is making, to submit to universities to get into her dream school. I have very conflicting feelings about this book. I was really enjoying this book for the first half, like the first 150 pages were fantastic. I loved watching Rachel and Sana's relationship grow. I loved their dynamic. I loved all of it. And then in the second half, things kind of fell apart for me. A lot of characters felt like they did a complete 180 that they would not have done based on the way their characters were developed in the first half. There were 2 huge things that could have been solved if people just communicated, and that's probably like the biggest thing for me. Like, a whole bunch of stuff goes on with Sana's family that could have been solved if she just communicated with them. And then there's a big thing that goes on between Rachel and Sana that could have been solved if Rachel just communicated it with Sana early on. And it's this whole thing. The second half of the book would not exist if people just talked to each other, and that's what made it really frustrating for me. I ended up giving this book like 2 out of 5 stars. It was not for me. And finally, the last movie that I read, the last movie that I watched in November was The Incredibles 2, which is currently on Netflix, and I loved it. It's so good. I think I like it more than the first movie. I like that it picks off exactly where the first movie left off. I watched them one right after the other, and it was just like one big long continuous film, which was wonderful. I like the role reversal in this movie. We get to see Helen being a superhero and being awesome, and we see Bob staying at home and being a dad, them both struggling with the ideas behind that, but ultimately realizing that it's for good reasons. Yeah, it was so good. 5 out of 5 stars to The Incredibles 2. That is everything that I read, watched, and played in November. What have you guys been reading or watching or playing? You should let me know in the comments down below. And have you read or watched or played any of the things that I talked about in this video? You should let me know your thoughts and feelings about them down below. I do respond to every comment on my videos, and I absolutely love hearing from you. And I will see you soon with a new video. Bye-bye!